My name is Michelle Johnson. I'm the State Director for Adult and Family Education at the DC Office of the State Superintendent of Education. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the DHS TANF Employment and Education Program, Incentivizing 2-Gen Activities Online for Families in the District of Columbia. We are so pleased to have Mr. David Ross. He's the Deputy Administrator for the Economic Security Administration at the DC Department of Human Services. We think that it's such a blessing that he's able to share some of the exciting work that DHS has been embarking upon to better serve families in the District of Columbia. I'd also like to give Dr. Heather Bruce an opportunity to greet you as well. Dr. Bruce?
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. I was
Good
muted.
morning.
I'm Dr. Heather Bruce, the Director of the Adult Education Program at the District of Columbia, and we would like to welcome you to the second day of our Professional Development Institute. Yesterday was a great day, and I look forward to another exciting day with these wonderful resources and partnerships we are bringing to you. So unmute myself, and I'm also going to take off my video.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. David?
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. Thank you so much. I want to, give thanks to you and your team. Michelle and Stacy are awesome partners, and I appreciate them allowing me to come and share some of the exciting things that we've been doing at the Department of Human Services to provide services to our families during this period of COVID. Thank you. Okay. So I'm here to talk to you all about our 2-gen compensation model. I'm sure everyone on this call is very aware. What's going on? Thank you. Very aware of the 2-gen framework that Ascend at Aspen Institute has put forth, and we at the department have really been intentional and strategic about including and weaving all 5 domains of 2-gen throughout our policy and program implementation, both with our TANF and SNAP employment programs. And so what we are able to share with you today is how we have taken that framework and really turned it into a compensation model. And, we believe that when there is tragedy and hardship, there are also opportunities and silver linings to find ways to do better, to be more supportive. And COVID has presented that opportunity for us to be able to incentivize these activities that we all know collectively together better prepare our families for true economic stability. So you are going to receive the very same presentation that we presented to our TEP providers when this model was first approved and shared. We wanted to ensure that we were being consistent with our service provider partners in what we are compensating, how we are moving forward through this plan. And if you have any questions, I would be more than excited to answer those for you. So what I hope we will review today is a background to the compensation model, why we developed the model in the first place. We will review the model itself. Then, because this was the presentation shared with our providers, there is an invoicing protocol. We'll have time for questions and answers, and then we'll provide you with some contact information should you have any questions, or if anyone on the line would like this presentation for their networks as well. So a little background to the compensation model. So when COVID first happened in mid-March, I think I will never forget, March 13th was the last official Friday of the entire team being DHS and DC government being at work on site. That following Monday, we all prepared to transition to remote services. Those of us in the workforce industry began to talk about the potential of the closures and the unemployment rates we were seeing and how that would affect our employment and education programs. At the time of this presentation, there were about 115 applications for unemployment insurance claims in DC. And since then, that number has rose to 136 claims for unemployment insurance in DC since March 16th. And just to provide some context, there are 702 residents in the District of Columbia. So 136 is just shy, like 19.45%. 20% of our residents have applied for assistance since COVID began.
David, 700,000.
What did I say?
700.
Oh, I'm sorry, 702,000. Thank you. So 702,000 residents of the District of Columbia and 136,000 have applied for UI insurance claims since March 16th, and that represents 20% of the residents of the district. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to align with our regional partners. We reached out to Virginia and Maryland, and both were contemplating how they could revise their contracts and grants to support this new normal. And ultimately, underlying all of our strategies and our thoughts and plans at the time, we wanted to ensure that we were supporting and helping our customers navigate what this new normal meant, not only for their employment and educational goals, but for the education planning for their children. So the model, we believe, is one of the first of its kind. While we understand that many, not only TANF jurisdictions, but family and youth serving organizations have adopted the 2-gen model, we've actually incentivized it using government dollars, and our incentivize activities under each of the 5 domains. While we have identified activities to incentivize under each of the 5 domains, we will still honor our traditional employment and education outcomes for our customers, as our providers and customers are able to attain those throughout this period of COVID. And all of the incentives require an updated individual detailed responsibility plan. What we wanted to do in not only creating this 2-gen model, but we also wanted to honor the employment incentives that customers were working towards in the month of March. So what we did was we agreed to honoring customers who lost employment because of COVID. So meaning those first 2 weeks of March, they were actively engaged in employment. They were actively engaged with their provider. They were submitting time and attendance records, i.e. a pay stub, and were working towards either that work placement or any of the month 1 through 12 retentions in March 2020. If they were meeting their or working towards meeting their required hours, but could not, only because their job, they were either laid off, furloughed, any of the above because of COVID, we went ahead and decided to honor those payments. And so what the provider and customer need to do is obtain proof of job loss, which we did not want to create an additional barrier, an administrative barrier for our customers. So whatever documentation their employer would have provided, or what we agreed, and you'll see in some of the FAQs, any proof of an application for unemployment insurance benefits would support that proof of job loss. And then we, steps 3 and 4 are administrative processes as to how our providers would document that information and submit it to the Department of Human Services so that we could verify and issue that incentive as and where appropriate. So let's jump into the model itself, and we will discuss each of the activities that we have identified for incentives under each of the 5 domains. So the first domain is childhood development. While nationally this domain is early childhood development, what we wanted to honor in the TANF program is that parents may receive TANF when there is a child in the household up through 18. So we wanted to honor education planning, preparation, and training for all youth in the household who were known to our household composition. So first we have addressing or resolving child truancy matters. And we have since expanded that definition to include children who may be addressing behavioral issues. The requirement for that is proof of resolution or proof that the activity is being addressed by the parent, by the appropriate school or district agency. And we wanted to be very intentional about loosely defining our activity so that customers who are experiencing these issues can participate. And as you may or may not be aware, TANF is a very verification heavy program, but we wanted to identify verifications that the customer would obtain by engaging in the activity. So for instance, if a parent had a child who had an IEP or some sort of behavioral issue in school prior to July, and as part of that documentation, there might have been a recommendation for counseling or engaging in some sort of therapeutic painting or anything for that nature, where the parent can show proof that there was a identified issue and potentially some recommendations, and where they are beginning to address those recommendations. The parent is eligible for a $50 incentive. The provider receives an incentive as well. And this is a one-time incentive. Now let's talk about what that means, one-time or reoccurring. This compensation model is effective between July 1st and September 30th, 2020. You all will receive this presentation, and those dates are further on in the slide, so don't worry about taking notes. But so one time means that a parent can request this incentive one time between July 1st and September 30th to receive credit for it. The second activity is enrolling children where and how appropriate ages 0 to 4 in Aussie Quinn Improvement Network slots. And that is just proof of enrollment into the identified slot. And there is an incentive for both customer and the provider. And this is yet another one-time incentive between July 1st and September 30th. And then the last activity where DCPS and charter schools and other educational facilities have provided instruction for parents and children on virtual class and homework, where parents are able to submit proof of a completed weekly lesson, no matter what that lesson looks like, no matter what the age of the child is. There is an incentive for both the customer and the provider, and that is a reoccurring incentive, meaning the parent may request that incentive one time in July, again in August, and for a third time in September. So before I go any further, might there be any questions about the activities identified in Domain 1? Okay, we'll move on to the second domain. So the second domain is around economic assets, and we wanted to ensure that we incentivized some activities that further support not only our customers obtaining employment, but that would allow our customers to attain stable housing. So we want to make sure we were incentivizing activities that supported what our Family Services Administration works, and that is to provide homelessness and housing stabilization services to our parents. So the first activity is obtain stable housing. And the requirement for that incentive was to show proof of a lease where the customer pays 30% or more of that monthly rent. The customer's incentive is $125, provider is $500, and that is a one-time incentive. We have since redefined the requirement for that activity based on actually a presentation to our advocate community and a recommendation they made that we have since accepted and honored. And now the new definition is whenever the customer is able to show proof of a lease and whatever their rental amount requirement is, we will honor that. So some are only able to pay less than 30%, but nevertheless, we don't want to not honor their attempt to obtain stable housing and their attempt to meet their rental obligation as they continue to increase their financial resources. The second activity is opening up a bank account, either a checking or savings account, and proof of that activity is actual proof that the account was opened with a deposit, and the deposit can be $1. That incentive is $50 for the customer, $100 for the provider, and that is a one-time, again, between July 1st and September 30th. And we have gone to expand the definition of who can open up the account to include both the primary benefit recipient as well as the children who are known to the household. So we want to encourage early banking for our young folks as well. Both of those, obtain stable housing and opening an account, are one-time incentives. credit repair. So we wanted to honor the fact that establishing and fixing credit is a great way to work towards owning a home. Some employers look at credit as a condition of employment. So we want to honor our customers, continuing to make efforts to improve credit where and how they are able. There is an incentive for the customer and the provider, and that is a reoccurring incentive. So again, where the customer is able to show proof of that credit score improving, even 1 point counts as an improvement. They're able to receive that incentive in July, again in August, and a final time in September. The next activity is opening a matched funds account, and we have since expanded that definition to be for either the primary benefit recipient, the parent, or children known in the household. Proof that the account and a deposit was made, and there is an incentive for both customer and provider, and that is a one-time incentive. And then the last incentive for this activity is filing taxes and registering with the IRS stimulus registry. And it's important. We are great partners with CAB, and CAB has taught us, they presented at one of our TANF meetings before COVID, and there are millions upon millions of dollars that are not returned to the district because people who think they might not be eligible either for a return or think that they do not need to file taxes, they're losing out on dollars, and those are dollars that the district could have used prior to COVID in terms of tax dollars and the income that is generated from spending those dollars. But since COVID, we could certainly use those. The tax period officially has ended, but late filing is better than no filing. And so where customers are able to file taxes and register for the IRS stimulus registry, and I believe Catholic Charities is the entity in the district that has been identified to help customers with that. And we want to ensure that customers remain eligible and aware of any federal stimulus resources that might be provided. And there is an incentive for both customers and providers, and that is a one-time incentive between July 1st and September 30th.
Hey, David, just to clarify, Catholic Charities, there's a bunch that can help people do it, but Catholic Charities is the only entity that can do it and sign virtually for me. Others need to be face-to-face and have a wet signature, whereas Catholic Charities can essentially sign on behalf of you or me.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions about economic assets?
David, we have a question in the chat, but it's overall, it just says, will DHS extend this beyond 9/30/20?
So that's a great question. We know that the mayor has extended the health pandemic through October 9th, and that crosses fiscal years, right? So we have already begun to execute fiscal year 21 documents because of the contractual timelines that have to be put in place. However, what we are keenly aware of, particularly with that 20% of the district applying for UI, that means those are freshly unemployed customers who now our customers have to compete with, on top of the graduates and folk who move here. So the likelihood that we will see employment numbers like we had prior to COVID, it'll take some time to recover. I know there are news reports that there are some jobs that are bouncing back. Some of those jobs don't have recurring hours. There might not be benefits tied to it. They're temp jobs. They're in industries that might not align with our new goals of creating career pathway opportunities for our customers. So what we want to do is, because this compensation model is effective between July and September, and that's very key because what our director did is really take a leap of faith on our customers and our providers, because we did this without including new dollars in our contracts. We did some financial forecasting and we looked at what we had paid out in employment and education bonuses previously to determine what we may not be paying in the foreseeable, or at least the foreseeable future being the next quarter, to then reallocate those dollars to these activities. So what we need to do is in October, November, as quickly as can be done, we need to analyze the July, August, and September invoices to take a look at which of these activities the customers really hone in on and key in on. Some of the one-times we'll definitely remove, but some of the reoccurring, like what may make sense to keep going, right? And I think definitely what we're seeing in the education space might be one of those activities we may want to continue. So all that to say, we have to do some quick analysis in October and November, because these are contracts and it requires the movement of contract vehicles, of dollars, et cetera, and so forth. So we need to see if there's a way we can continue to Jen. And if we can, it may not be until January, only because of how we need to pivot the contracts. I hope that answered the question. Are there any questions? I can't see the chat, Michelle, or else I have to.
Yeah, no, that's it for now.
Okay, so I'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. So domain 3, health and wellness, and we wanted to definitely incentivize and promote these activities for our customers. First and foremost, we wanted to encourage customers to attend health and wellness appointments. That includes their appointments as well as keeping up appointments for their children. And that includes virtual, and as some doctors, depending on some issues, allow on-site, that is included in this incentive as well. There is an incentive for both customers and providers, and this is a reoccurring incentive. So again, the customer can receive it in July, again in August, and again in September. The second one we really like, that's the completion of family physical activity, right? So that's encouraging family bonding, family exercise, family movement. Does not matter what your family looks like, does not matter what abilities your family may be living with. We just want a picture of you all laughing and giggling and moving and enjoying some sunlight or in the house, whatever that may look like. But then there needs to be a picture of that activity 5 days a week. And there is an incentive both for the customer and the provider on a reoccurring basis. So again, in July, once in August, and once in September. This is a shout out to our partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health. We've been seeing some good results from us co-locating previously on-site, now virtually, behavioral health assessments tied to our Office of Work Opportunity as our customers complete our TANF assessment. And where customers are willing to complete an assessment, there's a one-time incentive for customers as well. To ensure that customers who have children who are age appropriate for our teen parent assessment program but may not be officially connected, we want to ensure that they get connected to those services. That team is doing some phenomenal work in the space of teen pregnancy and in the space of juvenile justice intervention. And so we want to make sure that those young people have access to that great work, and there's a one-time incentive there. And then this is something our administrator, Anthea, is really intentional about, really our director, our entire senior leadership, and that's mindfulness, right? Not only are we encouraging mindfulness at work for our staff, for our managers, there is a lot going on now, and there seems to be a lot of ease with virtual work, but with that virtual work, the 8-hour workday sometimes feels like a 12-hour workday with accessibility. So we want to ensure that we're encouraging and promoting people taking time out, right? And time out to find balance in their life. And that could be through yoga, through structured breathing, through meditation, and that's important. And so we want that to occur 5 days a week. That does not have to be the same activity. We will allow customers logging into, Facebook, something, as long as they provide a link, a brochure to what that structured 15, 20, 30-minute daily exercise is, and a picture of them doing the activity. There is an incentive for them each month. Let me briefly stop here at health and well-being to see if there are any questions. Okay. Domain number 4, this is where our traditional employment program rests, right? In post-secondary. Yep.
Excuse me, David.
Yep.
I think Ashley Wingfield is raising, she's making, Ashley, can you unmute yourself? It says something like the school and behavior. I'm not exactly sure what your comment is. Could you unmute?
Yeah. I was just saying for the school and behavior, I know you said that may change from being a one-time incentive, but it should definitely be more than just a one-time incentive type thing dealing with behavioral things like 504 plan, because that's a continuous thing for a parent.
So definitely we received that, and part of our analysis that we conduct in October and November will certainly look at which activities that our customers really honed in on, and not only which activities will we bring back if we are able to, but we'll take a look at whether they need to be reoccurring or one time received. Thank you, Ms. Winfield. Any other questions about any of the previous three domains? Number one was childhood development. Number two is economic assets. We just finished health and well-being. Okay, so we'll go into, again, 4 post-secondary and employment pathways, and this is where our traditional contract provider types lie. So I'll start at the bottom and move my way up. So our JP providers are job placement. So where our job placement providers are able to work with customers to obtain employment, we will honor those employment incentives where customers are able to achieve them. Next, our EOT, or education and occupational training provider type, which we solely incentivize to help customers obtain nationally recognized credentials where they are able to work with our customers. We will provide that incentive. And this is where I need to recognize Michelle and Stacy and her team in working with both our SNAP and our TANF service providers and management team to ensure that we are connected and included in plans to deliver e-CASAS testing to our residents. And so to honor that, what we did was we identified an incentive for customers who were engaged in e-CASAS testing, where they are able to show proof that they were on that track and took a pre-test prior to July, and if are ready to take a post-test between July and September, where there is improvement, we will incentivize that. And going back to Ms. Winfield's comment that if that's something that we see a lot of uptick with, and if we are able to bring 2Gen back, we definitely will take a look at that and to see if we need to make that a reoccurring goal to encourage continued improvement and working towards that test. Any questions about this domain? Okay.
None in the chat, David.
Thank you, ma'am. So our last domain is social capital, and this is a nod to Brian Campbell, who's chimed in a couple times. Brian is our senior policy advisor, and Brian is the guy that, as you are having policy debates and program decisions, Brian always says, you know, there is the law, there's the policy, but at the end of the day, what is the right thing to do, right? So Brian is intentional about ensuring that our customers are aware of the vast number of resources that are in our community that sometimes are overlooked, or because of the crisis situations our customers are faced with on a day-to-day basis, they may not be aware exist as close as they do, right? And so often we hear from our customers that they don't have family in the area, or those family relationships might not be the best, therefore they're doing it all on their own. We really want those customers to understand what resources they have around them, not only now, but as they begin to move closer towards economic independence. We all know that getting a job just doesn't make life stop happening. And sometimes life tends to increase and double and quadruple sometimes when you get a job. And so, you know, whatever those issues that a family may be struggling with or want to ensure that they prevent or have a plan for, whether it's food insecurity or tutoring assistance or plan B and C childcare assistance, we want our customers to create a social capital matrix, right? And there's no one set definition of what that matrix looks like. We provided a sample to our provider type, and if interested, we can provide one to you all. But a social capital matrix is really a document that a customer and a case manager will sit down and discuss and to create that is really a visual of who are the resources, faith-based, not-for-profit, maybe government sponsored, that address the priority issues that are of concern for me. So a food insecurity might be something I am keenly concerned about and planning for. I may want to include in my matrix where there are food pantries or food supports for. If I am interested in holistic health, I might identify where those resources are. Brian, do you want to chime in here, since this is the Brian Campbell activity? Are you on the line, Brian?
I am. You're doing a good job.
Well, I know that, sir. I just wanted to know if you wanted to chime in.
No, thanks.
Okay, so if any questions, I would assume there would be a lot of questions from that activity, but it's really, we want customers to be aware of what's in their community, right? And this is a nod back to quote unquote old times where, you know, families were struggling, a couple phone calls and the community came together type of thing. And this is what we are trying to reintroduce to our families, that there are services, but there's also strength in family, and family is both biological and not biological. So I'll get off my soapbox. So
I'll add one thing, David, just since you tipped up. And this is a place where when we did our TANF redesign and had the working group, that was, I think, to me, just really resounding, was the folks when they said that if they didn't have, there just wasn't someone in their network who they trusted to come pick up their kids if something happened. And so really, you know, kind of taking that to heart, you know, if school closes or school gets, you know, closes early, folks would naturally go pick up their kids and leave work. It's hard to argue against that, but so this is kind of the concept of how do we, you know, help people develop a healthy network. So I can call David to come pick up my kids if I'm stuck at work and I trust him. That's it.
Thanks, Brian.
David, can I ask you a question?
Always.
So in the development of the matrix, is it the customer's responsibility to do the research to identify those resources and supports? And you know, is it up to him or her to do it themselves? Can they seek assistance from other family members or, you know, a service provider to get the information that's needed for the matrix?
That's a great question. And really the answer to that question, Ms. Johnson, applies to all of the activities in this model, right? Of course, okay. This is what we incentivize through the TANF employment program. And our goal is to ensure that customers are connected to our providers to ensure that whatever resources they need, we can address. Some of you all may or may not be aware that each of our TANF customers have access to something called discrete work-related expenses, where if there are supplies or tools or uniforms or anything that a TANF customer needs to prepare for quote unquote success in the completion of an education program, success in obtaining a job, we will pay for up to $250. So that means we don't want our customer to leave your organization just to come to our provider to make them mad and to create an adversarial relationship. No, we want our customer to remain receiving services where they're comfortable at. What we want and need is for that customer, whomever they're receiving services from at your sites, and our case managers to connect. So first and foremost, we can create plans to be able to track those plans, understand what our customers are engaged in, enter their hours, participation hours into our catch case management system to ensure that they remain free of sanction. And then where we're able and where the participation hours support, to issue incentives as appropriate, right? So there are a number of customers engaged in your education programs, your adult ed education programs that might not be connected to our TANF employment program. We don't want them to leave your programs. We just want to make sure we are aware of that participation, because now we have 5 new categories of educational incentive raising from about $50 to over $500, depending on how long that training is, that customers may not be aware that they have access to if they're not connected to our program. So we never want customers, 1, to only receive services through our TEP providers. 2, our contract doesn't support it, right? We are a performance-based contract. We have 3 areas of invoicing for our contracts. 1 is a base payment that pays for about 75–80% of staff salaries. The second is a customer reimbursement portion, so where customers earn participation and employment and outcome incentives. The providers issue payment to the customers, submit proof of payment to DHS, and we reimburse them. So really the meat and potato from our providers comes from helping customers complete activities. So we want them to be connected to your providers. They need to be enrolled in your training programs, but we pay for case management and support and provide discrete work-related expenses. We can issue stipends. So that's, to me, that's why we should be working smarter and not harder, because we're really touching the same customers, and some of the needs that they may be communicating to you as your TANF partner, we may be able to address.
I think it's fantastic. You know, all of the 5 domains definitely is extremely beneficial to our providers to know about. I want to and to strategize ways to leverage some of these incentives. Yep. With the services they're currently providing DC residents. Is the I know you don't have a picture of a matrix of a sample one, but I was also interested in knowing, does the matrix include elements of all the other 4 domains?
So I will let me this is something we just came up on the fly, you know. This isn't a quick and dirty. So let me open this. Open.
And then we have a couple more questions, 2 more. Oh yeah, another question about the matrix as well. So.
Oh well, then this
is
very
interesting though. But it sounds, the potential of it, I mean, if it's what I envision it might be, could be quite phenomenal. I'm not sure yet because I'm not sure what it looks like.
What, the matrix?
Yeah, I see it now. Okay.
Now, and again, there's nothing scientific to it, but if there are social scientists on the line who want to help us improve it, we'll never turn that kind of help down. But really, this is about just, you know, creating a visual for what it looks like for you. So this is just some examples, right? So homework, lesson plans, tutorial assistance on the right, meals, food supply, medical needs, physical activities based on the different domains. And this is where you would begin to list, for example, you know, meals and food supply, then there is some others might eat nearby, or you know, and you put the address in a quick reference, getting back to Brian's notion of who can pick up my children if school lets out. The top left might be emergency family planning or transportation, and David is number 1 because he has a flexible virtual work schedule. And if I'm working overnight or weekends, then I know I need to call Mark because they live close by in our will. So it's, again, there's nothing scientific. We just want to know that our customers and our case managers are having that discussion and beginning to identify these resources, because again, getting the job does not make life stop. And we all know that, you know, a couple of years ago, it seems like sometimes this stuff, these are time and tested activities and principles, but it's repackaged. And if you remember, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, the buzzword was executive functioning, right? And executive functioning is when life happens, how do you sort of combine emotional intelligence and planning to be able to say, okay, my tire went flat, let me call this person, let me push my meeting back for an hour, and then I can, this needs to happen for our customers. We want it to happen now. We want it to happen so that when they obtain jobs and as they complete those education plans, this is almost like second nature.
Absolutely. The other question in the chat, Rosa Taylor asked, how can we get the list of resource? I guess it's really the, Rosa, the chart that David displayed give you an idea of some of the content of the matrix?
And I can share that. If it does, I can share it with Stacy.
Okay, great.
And actually, Stacy, I think this was that 4th document you were referencing, but I was trying to multitask and I didn't realize that you actually should have it. It's that Word document.
Okay. And then someone else asked, are there other online examples? Stacey, is that part of your question, your response, or is that someone else's question?
So we do have that. We do have those matrix examples, and when we send out, we now are up to 4 handouts, 4 great handouts that we'll send to everyone on this call right after. I was just suggesting that this is another great opportunity for some digital literacy skills. So I wondered if there were any sites that those who are on the line use to quickly find, sort of food assistance near me kinds of things. And I was thinking about our, Aussie's DC Back on Track, other of these aggregating websites, and where the clients could learn to use them. We could even bookmark them. I know that that's not where we'll find everything. A lot of it is knowing your community and knowing what's close by, and reaching out to other individuals, institutions, neighbors, and so forth who can be assets. But I was just thinking about it as a great way for digital literacy skills.
And you're right, because really 311 is a lost art, right? And I think not a lot of people either remember it or use it. You really can either call or go online and type in a customer's address and, show me the food pantries that are closest to me, show me the nearest men's shelter. So sometimes instead of calling and walking around, it is doing that sort of online research, which is another skill that's important for life and work. But we're open to exploring however we can best maximize this opportunity right now.
Shayla, there's another question from Ashley Wingfield. Should we use this diagram during the DRIP? I'm not exactly sure what DRIP stands for.
Oh, I think she means, DRIP is the acronym DIRP for the Detailed Individual Responsibility Plan. Okay. So yeah, that's a great question. So part of the updated detailed IRP would say, you list the activities that the customers will be working on, and you will allot hours for the customer to complete a social capital matrix.
Interesting.
You allot the hours there, and then the verification for those hours is each iteration until a completion of the actual matrix itself. So that's what I mean by we didn't want our customers to try to come up with additional layers of verification. The verification is completing the activity itself.
That's fantastic. And then Mr. Hawkins shared a resource for those of you who, if you're following in the chat, some resources from the public library. It's really interesting. Dr. Bruce and I are working on a theme for our next PD Institute, and this really confirms that we were right on target with the approach that we want to take about meeting the physiological, the socioeconomic, and the social emotional needs of DC residents, youth and adults at a distance who are in our education and workforce training program. So this is huge. It's definitely a need for us to really work more collaboratively together, to be able to address the whole person, right? So a little bit about what you're doing and a little bit what we're doing and DOES and everybody else. So thank you, David, for that.
No, again, thank you for this opportunity. And again, if there are anyone in your network who would like this presentation for their network, please feel free to reach out to Michelle and Stacy. They're great partners, and we will be able to make that happen. So I'll just take a couple more seconds to run through, this is really, excuse me. So these are invoicing protocols, right? So this is how our providers will submit proof of these activities to us, because our case management system is also an invoicing system with our 12 federal activities keyed in for payment on, in addition to the ability to track 2 gen hours. But because this was a last minute COVID related exercise, we were not able to redesign our system to now incentivize 2 gen. So this is how our providers will submit proof of those activities for reimbursement and payment. And this is just, through transparency to let you know how we operate with our providers. So we've talked about questions and answers, and at the end of this presentation, there's my contact information, and then Christian Akwanko, who is a supervisory program analyst in the Office of Performance Monitoring, and the Office of Performance Monitoring provides contractual oversight for the TANF Employment Program Service Provider Partners. So that is the end of my presentation.
So David, what have been some of the responses from your customers? What kind of feedback have you received from them thus far? I mean, before you answer, how long have you been implementing the program and this new incentive program?
Great question. So this started July 1st. So really recently, and it's, you know, these are activities, again, particularly that homework activity, right? As our parents were dealing with COVID early on. We were towards the end of the school semester, so I think this is my assumption, right? There wasn't a lot of thought to the new school year, because maybe the thought was in 2-3 months we'll be back together, right? We're back on site. But as the summer progressed, and here we are in mid-August, when, you know, I'm starting to see advertisements about back to school supplies. It's okay, we're not going back to school, we're doing this at home. So what does that look like for our families, right? And that's something that Anthea, our administrator, has been very intent about. Like, what, you know, our focus is always on children, which is what 2Gen is about, which is what a lot of our work is about. But, you know, our children are strengthened and supported by parents. And so what does that support look like for parents in terms of the environments of their homes and the preparedness to really switch to an educational sort of setting? What supports do they need? We're very interested in the digital divide and access to internet and devices for our customers. We are intent and interested on ensuring that our customers have access to mindfulness and behavioral health supports. We're all dealing with, you know, something, one, as humans, and two, the lack of normalized interaction has exacerbated some issues we were able to maybe mask prior to COVID. And so we want to make sure that people understand that it's okay to have those issues, to address those issues, to work with those issues. So, I mean, we're just saying overall, our customers love it. They're responsive, that they appreciate it. And really, this is a strategy not only to support those families who were engaged in services, but for those families who, for whatever reason, for whatever priority that took them away from the TANF program, if they have been struggling, if they haven't been engaged, these are some low barrier activities to sort of welcome them back into the fold, right? Let's start with some baby steps and get some resources back in your hand, get you back in sort of the mind frame of not even looking for work or enrolling in school. Let's just get you thinking about your future and what happiness looks like and what a career might look like. And these are some activities to support that.
Thank you.
So this is Stacy. So David, we know that because with the OSSE Adult and Family Education model, supportive services are a key piece. And we know that the staff and social workers are working with adult learners as they come in. The district residents come in for services to look at barrier remediation right away for program participation. So you're saying, I just want to clarify that the format that you've given us is just a sample, and if they already have some kind of a Venn diagram or something that they already use and they fill in with that district resident, then that would be acceptable. That format would be acceptable.
By all means. Yes, Stacy. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Great question. So any points of clarity? I know we provided some FAQs that you all will get. I think I, for the most part, provided some of the expanded definitions as we went through the activities, primarily around the housing rental portion for customers who are able to lease up, the expanding and redefining opening an account and whatnot to mean both the parent and the child. I want to stress that it's important that to note that these incentives are for our customers and for customers who are known to our household size. So where there are opportunities to include those customers, it's appropriate, right? Just from a benefits point of view, that may change their benefit allotment. So we just want to make sure we're aware of everyone who our parents are supporting.
And then with the with on the charts, the providers are the DHS TEP providers, correct? For whom those additional incentives are available as well.
Yes. So there's there's a question from Andre Dawkins. Yes, Andre. So in order to take part in the CASAS incentive, a customer would have been having to initiate that process prior to July. So that's where the pre-test would have come in, so that we can incentivize the post-testing between July and September. And again, this is our first stab at the party, right? Well, maybe that's a poor analogy. This was our first try at this compensation model, where there are opportunities, if we are able to reintroduce it, to refine these incentives. Again, particularly for those educational incentives, we will reach out to Michelle and Stacy, and as an extension, you all as their partners, to ensure that we are incentivizing things that, you know, as government agencies, I think we really need to work better together, right? So where we can incentivize activities that support what you all need to accomplish and help our customers move closer to employment. I mean, we're always open to that. And as a WIC partner, right, Workforce Investment Council, as our Work Innovation Opportunity Act partnership requires us to be, like, we should be working together because we really do service the same customers, you know? Thank you, sir.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Dr. Bruce, do you have any questions or any reflections?
Okay, let me unmute myself. No, I was very excited, David, to hear about these plans because, as Michelle shared, this was exactly what we have been working on, to bring some more support to our learners during the time of COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm very excited about this, Michelle, and I think it just confirms that we are on the right track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be reaching out to you. Because partnering with you guys is key.
Yeah.
You, DOES, DDS, I think we just got to get a handle on what we have and how we can share it, across the board. But yeah, this is.
And I think what's exciting and what's not necessarily unique, but to our advantage, is that we enjoy sharing and working together, and that's so important. You know, teamwork. Sometimes you spend so much time working through the ins and outs of interpersonal relationships that it takes a while to get work done. I mean, again, I can't stress the great partnership we have, particularly with you all at OSSI, and I just appreciate it. So again, if we are able to reintroduce to Jen, I would love to sit down. I know our team and they would love to sit down with you and see how we can further flesh out that education development domain under 2Gen.
That'll be great. I'm even interested in even us talking about expanding it to some extent, to look at some of the other IE&T components, because we do have the workforce prep.
Yep.
And the workforce training, and even the transitional goals. So yeah, I think it's huge. Applause. Congratulations on expanding your model. It's fantastic.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent work.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you,
And
David.
we do have some family literacy programs. We fund 2 of them. I'm not sure if they're on the call, but I was like, oh my God, we got to get our, definitely, this is an opportunity for them to really think about how they're working with parents and children. I think quite a few of our providers are thinking more extensively because of the challenges now of navigating their home, their home life with their children, and yet at the same time working towards their own education and training goals. So I know some of them are sending work home to parents to work with their children, so they don't have to think about what I need to do, what should I use. I'm hoping we can move to more of those kinds of models where we're developing these packets, these kits that we send home for the demonstration of workforce competencies or workforce preparation competencies or family literacy competencies, things of that sort, that can be provided and observed at a distance.
Agree.
And
Hey,
for
Michelle.
public, And Brea Public Charter School, which is one of the family literacy programs, they have been putting up exercises and activities the parents can do at home with their kids, many of them which would then meet some of the examples of what you'll accept. Playing with kids, drawing the kids' bodies on the ground, labeling parts of the body, or measuring. So we can, I'm going to look for that link as well, because there are a lot of ready-made, and Scholastic also has a lot ready-made activities, kind of like our old TV 411, right, Michelle, that the parents could be engaging in with their kids.
Absolutely.
This is Brian. One thing, it may have been covered. If I missed it, I apologize. But what we talk about is kind of helping families simply plan out their day.
Mm-hmm.
That includes my family. I didn't. Have you guys run across any kind of good day planners in terms of saying just to give folks structure? And so sometimes when that structure is written out in front of you, it's a little easier. And that's kind of something we started talking about. At least have started talking about in ESA, that we could, introduce to our families as part of just a support.
Thanks, Brian.
If you have any examples or thoughts, I mean, shoot those. I mean, we're in the. I don't think we have a draft even yet.
We can reach out to definitely reach out to our family literacy providers to see what they're using. Stacey, we haven't had we could definitely find out what everyone's doing or planning on doing. Many of them are preparing now to serve. They're currently serving individuals, but yeah, we'll find out and share that with you and David and Jeff.
Yeah, so just to kind of just to reiterate, I think we're getting a lot of things from schools and said this is what the curriculum is going to look like in terms of when you have period A, period B. I think what we're looking for is something that's a little broader, saying, okay, I have a family with 4 kids, and so how can I structure my day so I'm supporting my kids, taking care of myself, not down to the minute, but boy, I'm gonna go, once I hang up on this call, before I jump on the next call, I'm gonna go and find out what my son is doing and tell him to stop.
That happened yesterday too on the call, so yeah. We understand. Yeah.
Definitely look at any apps on your phone, because there are a lot of day planner apps, and I got one right now, and it'll literally tell you everything step by step. But some little things like that, you can just offer different apps to your customers and see which ones work best for them.
That's a great idea. Thanks.
Good.
Well, David, we want to thank you so much for facilitating this morning's webinar. It's definitely been a blessing. Brian, thank you so much as well for providing insight, further details about the incentive program, and then all the individuals who participated in the chat. Like, I was like, Dr. Bruce, we almost need to move some of this to the next mini PD series, but it's a blessing. It's confirmation, as you said, because we just thought about this yesterday, because we try to stay ahead of it right now during the pandemic. Yes. Having resources is so important, and so we're trying to stay ahead of the game. Those of you on the call, we will make sure that we provide you with the resources. Stacey, you have access to all of their email addresses in the chat, or do they need to put it from the chat, or do they need to enter them into the chat since we didn't have registration?
We can get the email address from their participation today. What we're not able to capture is the affiliation. So many we know, or we can figure out based on your email address, but there are some where we have wide participation, which is really great. So if you are not a DC government employee or an AFE subgrantee, then you may want to put your name and your agency affiliation in the chat so that we can make sure that we can put all of that together.
We tried this new PD approach without having a registration process because we thought it would be easy, and it is easy, but there are some pros and cons. So thank you. Please do as Stacey instructed. by putting your name and agency affiliation in the chat, and we'll make sure we push everything out to you. David, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great job.
Looking forward to
Thank you.
working with you.
Thank you,
And
Dr.
everyone, please join us for this afternoon's session on the One-Stop Operator, and tomorrow for additional workshops during our mini PD Institute. Thank you, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Hi, Ms. Hollis.
Bye.
Bye.